Welcome to Whispers Before Sleep. I'm truly grateful that you're here tonight. Wherever you are in the world, whatever kind of day you've had, I hope these next few moments bring you comfort. Tonight, let's slow down together. Take a deep breath, let go of today's worries, and allow this story to gently carry you toward peaceful dreams. So settle in, close your eyes if you're ready, and together, let's begin. On a quiet street where people rarely hurried, there stood a tiny bookshop. It wasn't famous. It wasn't grand. Many people walked past it without ever noticing the little wooden sign hanging above the door. Elias Bookshop. Yet, those who entered often left believing something impossible had happened. Not because the books were magical, but because somehow each person found exactly the story they needed, even when they weren't looking for it. Every morning, before sunrise, Mr. Elias unlocked the old oak door. The tiny brass bell above it gave the same gentle chime it had sung for nearly 50 years. He loved that sound. To him, it was the shop saying, "Good morning." Inside, the shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with books of every kind: adventure novels, poetry, cookbooks, travel journals, children's stories. Some were brand new. Others had yellowed pages and worn covers that carried the scent of time itself. Mr. Elias believed every book had two stories: the one written inside its pages and the one created by the people who read it. Each morning, he dusted the shelves carefully, watered the small fern by the window, placed fresh flowers on the front counter, then brewed a pot of warm chamomile tea. Anyone who entered was offered a cup, not because they had to buy something, but because everyone deserved to feel welcome. Most visitors stayed longer than they intended. Some came searching for books, others came searching for silence, and Mr. Elias had a remarkable gift. He listened more than he spoke. When someone finished talking, he never rushed to give advice. Instead, he quietly walked toward a shelf, pulled out a book, smiled, and simply said, "I think this one has been waiting for you." No one understood how he always chose the right book, not even Mr. Elias himself. Perhaps it wasn't magic. Perhaps people simply needed someone who truly listened. One rainy afternoon, a young woman named Clara stepped into the shop. She was 20 years old. Her shoulders were heavy with disappointment. She just failed the entrance examination for the university she had dreamed of attending. She wandered through the shelves without really seeing the books. Mr. Elias welcomed her with a warm smile and a cup of tea. After a long silence, Clara whispered, "I don't think I'm good enough anymore." Mr. Elias nodded gently. He didn't tell her she was wrong. He simply walked to a dusty shelf and picked a worn novel. Its title read, "The Mountain That Waited." Clara frowned. "I didn't ask for this." Mr. Elias smiled. "I know, but perhaps it asks for you." Curious, Clara took the book home. Night after night, she read about a traveler who climbed the same mountain over and over, failing many times before finally reaching the summit. The story wasn't really about climbing. It was about refusing to let failure decide who you become. Months later, Clara returned to the shop. This time, she was smiling. She had taken the exam again and she had passed. She hugged the old book tightly. "It wasn't the exam that changed me," she told Mr. Elias. "It was believing I could try again." Mr. Elias simply smiled. Sometimes, hope begins with turning one page. Several weeks later, Another visitor arrived. His name was Samuel. He carried a violin case but confessed he had not played in months. I used to love music, he said softly. Now, every note feels empty. Instead of giving him a music book, Mr. Elias handed him an old travel journal written by a sailor. Samuel looked confused. This isn't about music. No, Mr. Elias replied. It's about courage. That evening, Samuel read the journal. One sentence stayed with him. The sea never asks if you are afraid. It simply asks whether you will keep sailing. The next morning, Samuel opened his violin case. He played one simple melody. Not perfectly, but honestly. Soon, music returned. Not because he became flawless, but because he stopped trying to be. Years later, he would perform for hundreds of people. Before every concert, he would whisper, "Thank you, Mr. Elias." Winter arrived. One cold evening, just before closing, the bell above the door rang softly. A young nurse entered. Her name was Emma. Dark circles rested beneath her tired eyes. She had spent years caring for others, yet no one ever seemed to ask how she was doing. After listening quietly, Mr. Elias disappeared into the back room. He returned carrying a simple blank journal. Emma looked puzzled. "There aren't any words." Mr. Elias smiled. "Not yet." She looked at him with curious eyes. He continued, "The next beautiful story someone needs to read might be yours." Emma began writing every evening. She wrote about the elderly man who smiled despite his illness, the frightened child who squeezed her hand before surgery, the grateful family who whispered thank you. Little by little, she realized she had not been invisible after all. She had been quietly changing lives every single day. The years passed gently. Mr. Elias grew older. His hair turned completely white. His steps became slower, but his smile never changed. One peaceful spring morning, the little bookshop remained closed. The townspeople gathered outside. Word had spread that Mr. Elias had passed away in his sleep. There were no grand speeches, no sadness filled with despair, only quiet gratitude. One by one, people arrived carrying a book. Clara brought The Mountain That Waited. Samuel carried the old sailor's journal. Emma held her now filled notebook. Each person shared how one conversation in that tiny bookshop had changed the course of their life. Together, they made a promise. The bookshop would never close. Above the entrance, they placed a new wooden sign. Every story finds its reader. Years later, children still wandered between the shelves. The kettle still boiled each morning. Fresh flowers still rested on the counter. And whenever someone felt lost, they somehow found the book they needed. Perhaps because kindness has a way of living far beyond the people who first offer it. Perhaps because stories never truly end. They simply find new readers. Thank you for spending part of your evening with me. If tonight's story brought you comfort, I hope you'll join me again for another peaceful journey. Until then, may your heart be lighter than it was today. May tomorrow bring you new hope. And may your dreams remind you that even the quietest night can hold the brightest stars. Good night, my friend. Sleep peacefully. I'll be here when you're ready for another story.